Hey, Brian here with worshiptutorials.com. Hey, I hope you are doing well today. I was editing a video just the other day for the Worship Manual, Volume 2, which is something that Fuller and I are putting out very soon, if not already. And we have a whole module in that online course about multitracks, what they are, how to use them well in your church. And I thought I would take just a snippet of one of those lessons and just upload it to YouTube so you guys could all hear what we were saying, because I think there's very valuable information in there. In this video, we were talking specifically about how to go about mixing multi-track stems underneath your band, or you if you're playing in a worship context. But you have to mix them with your band. You have to do it in a way where they enhance what you're doing, not take over what you're doing, where they sound, like they're part of what's going on, and not like your worship band karaoke. That's not what you want to do with multi-tracks. So check out this clip of Fuller and I talking about tips for mixing multi-track stems in your worship environments.
We have a tendency when we start using multi-tracks to just use everything because it's there.
Way overboard.
But that's not, I think a better approach is listening through the multi-track and going, what would add sound, what would add value to our sound? And my general rule of thumb is when I open a multi-track, let's say it has 20 tracks, I immediately want to get it down to like 5.
Yeah.
I want to eliminate as much as possible until I'm left with some really important, cool things that blend with what we're already doing.
Can we take a moment now, and from our experience, what instruments work well as tracks, and what don't? Because
absolutely,
I've found in my experience that if you don't have a bass player that weekend, but you have the rest of the band, you can put bass in the tracks. Mm-hmm. And it works pretty well.
Yep.
And because bass is one of those things, it's more felt than heard sometimes. Unless the song has unless it's like a Planet Shaker song, their bass player is crazy about it. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Like if it's a Planet Shaker song and you're running bass in the track, you're going to hear a lot of you might not want that. But if it's just basic bass parts, bass is an easy thing to hide in the tracks.
It is, especially if you have multiple guitar players.
Yeah.
If you have 2 electrics and an acoustic, nobody's going to know that they're not playing bass except the bass player.
Nobody's playing the big guitar this week.
Yeah, exactly. No one notices.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played bass on so many weekends where people be like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed your guitar playing.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's cool, I didn't play guitar, but fine. So bass,
you did technically.
Bass is really, and the other thing is, let's be honest, drums without bass sounds terrible.
Yeah, you want both
so
together.
I mean, I think the
either
number
both of them or none of them. Actually, bass sounds pretty good sometimes without
it does.
Yeah.
I think the most appropriate use of a multi-track is bass.
Yeah, okay.
That's the most appropriate use
bass
of multi-track.
Maybe some pad stuff.
Well, pads, of course.
Like aux keys.
Yeah. Anything that's in a lower register that's warm and not very melodic is really safe bet.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to add to what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Things to avoid would be, like you said, Brian, anything that's a lead line. That's a signature riff. You're like, and no one's playing it.
Right.
Now, if you're doubling it, that's fine.
Yeah.
If I'm playing it on guitar and our keyboard's playing it, and then we also have 4 synths playing it, totally fine.
Yeah.
No one will know. Mid-range instruments can be a disaster because the guitars, they take up so much of the frequency that the vocals are in, and so things can just get really muddy. So I like to use guitar parts to reinforce power chords. So I'm playing power chords, but then there's also 8 layers of guitars playing power chords. Yeah. It's nice because you can bring them up just a little to give you a little bit of extra frequency range. Sounds bigger. Ambient guitar parts work.
Yeah,
as long as they're not too melodic. Some of the coolest multi-track stems are the really ambient guitars that are mostly like pads. B3 organ is great.
It works well.
Great because you just feel it.
The organ, like a B3 specifically, adds a lot of energy.
It really does.
And you might not realize that.
Yep.
Or that's not an instrument you think that adds a bunch of energy.
Yes.
But it does.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would say is percussion loops.
Like shakers.
Shakers, tambourines, and even backbeat drum loops, because people are so used to hearing that.
Yeah.
In all of pop music, in every live band they see, they've just accepted that. It's a rhythmic thing. As long as you have a drummer, most people honestly can't distinguish what the drummer's playing and what the loop percussions are playing.
But you gotta be tight.
gotta be tight because that can get real messy. That can get real messy. So that's the overall thing. When it comes to vocals, I get asked a lot, should we use vocals? Should we not use vocals? I look at it like this. If it's a song that has a choir track, meaning it's just a group or sometimes the audience, a room full of people singing unison, that's nice to have.
It is.
Because it makes it sound like everyone else is singing, and it really can help people engage in worship more. I've seen people sing more when they hear that choir vocal in the track. I'm not a fan of using harmonies, like tenor parts, really distinguishable harmonies, unless you have other vocalists. If you have 2 or 3 vocalists on stage, you can get away with using extra vocals. But be careful because you don't want to devalue the vocalists that you have.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you overdo it, people will be like, well, why am I here? Why do you need me? But in general, remember, multi-track should always enhance what you're doing, not be a crutch or cover up